Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Always exciting to jump into a new one.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be exploring this talk by Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf
Oh,
called Believe, Love, Do. And he gave it back in 2018. But I think the themes that he talks about purpose and meaning in life, they're always timely.
absolutely.
So to get at some of these questions, he uses this fascinating German word,
Oh, yeah.
Weltschmerz. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, I think many people have felt that,
Yeah.
especially in recent years. It's definitely a feeling that resonates across different cultures and different time periods.
Mhm.
Kind of this sense of maybe like weariness or dissatisfaction with the world. Like
Yeah.
it's falling short of some kind of ideal that we have in our minds.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you look around, you think, is this all there is?
Exactly.
And I think it's not necessarily like full-blown depression, but it's more of a subtle kind of like ache,
Exactly.
almost like a cosmic meh, you know?
Yeah, I like that. A cosmic, yeah. That's a good way to put it. And Uchtdorf uses this feeling as a springboard to really explore how we can find genuine purpose and meaning in life,
Okay.
even when we're faced with that sense of Weltschmerz. So he starts off with this pretty intriguing story. King Solomon.
Oh, yeah. The guy who had it all, a breath, power, wisdom.
Yeah, all the things that the world tells us
Right.
will bring us happiness.
And then he just ends up empty anyway.
Exactly, yeah. And despite all those accomplishments, Solomon basically just declares that life is vanity.
Hmm.
And I think what's really fascinating here is that Uchtdorf isn't using Solomon as like a cautionary tale
Okay.
about the dangers of wealth or ambition. It's more like he's using Solomon's experience to illustrate this fundamental human longing,
Okay.
this search for something more than just material success or fleeting pleasures.
So Solomon, in a way, he represents this universal human experience of searching for meaning.
Yeah,
Even when you achieve what the world says is success, you can still end up feeling that Weltschmerz.
absolutely, yeah. And that's where Uchtdorf kind of brings in Jesus
Yeah.
and his promise of abundant life.
Okay.
And I think it's important to note that he's not talking about abundant life as just acquiring more stuff
Okay.
or achieving worldly success.
Right.
It's about something much deeper.
Yeah. So it's not just about checking off boxes on your to-do list. It's about finding a deeper sense of purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes that this abundant life, it's really found in becoming a true disciple of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
It's not about self-focus.
Mm-hmm.
It's about aligning ourselves with Christ's example and engaging in his work.
And I think that's where the whole believe, love, do framework comes in, which is
Mhm.
really kind of the core of his talk.
It is, yeah. It's about taking those ideas and putting them into practice in our lives.
So it's not just like a nice sentiment. It's about action and actually like living these principles out.
Right. He's giving us a way to translate our belief into something tangible.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So let's break it down. So what does he say about believe?
Well, first off, he reminds us that believing, it's not just a head thing.
Okay.
It's not just about intellectually accepting certain ideas, but it's about this active faith
Mm-hmm.
that leads to trust and action. And he even uses this really great analogy of a plow tilling the earth,
Okay.
preparing it for seeds to grow.
So just like you need to prepare the soil before you plant seeds, you need to cultivate like a fertile ground of belief
Yeah,
before you can really put your faith into action.
exactly. Belief is the foundation.
Okay.
It's the groundwork.
All right, so foundation laid. What's next?
Love. Love.
But I have a feeling he's talking about something deeper
You're absolutely right.
than just, warm, fuzzy feelings.
Yeah. He makes this really clear distinction between superficial love
Okay.
and the deep, abiding love that God has for us and that we, in turn, should have for God and for others.
Okay, so it's not just about saying I love you or posting heart emojis on social media.
Exactly.
It's about a much deeper kind of love that actually motivates us to act.
Yes, exactly. It's the kind of love that compels us to serve, to make sacrifices,
Wow.
to reach out to others, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It's about putting others' needs before our own, just as Christ did.
Okay, that's a pretty high bar.
It is.
And it leads us to do, which is about taking that love and putting it into action.
Precisely, yeah. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we move beyond just thinking and feeling to actually doing something to make a difference in the world.
And he connects this doing part to the church, right? Like it provides us opportunities to practice this love.
Absolutely. He talks about things like ministering,
Right.
reaching out and serving others in our communities.
Yeah. And, he even joked about if they had called it shepherding instead of ministering,
Right.
that people would call him a German shepherd, which I thought was pretty funny.
Always good for a chuckle.
Yeah.
But it also, I think, underscores that the church is always evolving, always seeking ways to better reflect Christ's teachings and to create a more welcoming and inclusive environment.
So it's about finding these practical ways to put our love into action. And he really emphasizes the power of small and simple things, right?
Completely.
Not just grand gestures.
Not about, single-handedly saving the world, but just focusing on making a positive difference in the lives of those around you.
So it makes it a lot more approachable, less daunting. You don't have to be like a superhero to make a difference.
Right.
It's more about being consistently kind, helpful, engaged.
Yeah. And he even extends this invitation to those who aren't members of the church, or maybe they haven't been active for a while.
Okay.
And it's just this invitation to come join us.
Yeah. I like that. It's not about trying to fit into some perfect mold.
Yeah.
It's about showing up as you are and finding ways to connect and contribute.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important to remember that we're all imperfect. He acknowledges this explicitly. He's not saying you have to be perfect to belong.
Okay, that's really important because sometimes the idea of being a good person can feel overwhelming. Like you're constantly falling short.
Yeah.
But he's saying it's okay to be a work in progress.
Absolutely. The church is a place to grow and improve, not a club for the perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where we can come as we are, with all our flaws and imperfections, and strive to become better together.
That's a message I think we all need to hear sometimes, just about embracing the journey, knowing it's okay to make mistakes and learn along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we strive to do these things, to practice these principles, it's important to remember that becoming more Christ-like, it doesn't just happen overnight. Right? It's a process. He actually uses this analogy of like learning to play a musical instrument or mastering a sport.
Oh, yeah.
You don't just wake up one day and suddenly know how to play the piano or hit a home run.
That's so true.
It takes effort, dedication, practice. And he's applying that same principle to discipleship.
So it's like building those spiritual muscles.
Exactly.
And the church provides kind of a training ground.
Exactly. And I think that's where the concept of ministering comes in. It's not just about showing up on Sundays.
Right.
It's about actually engaging in our communities and reaching out to those around us and finding ways to serve and uplift others.
And, he even talks about how the church went through this whole process of redefining what they call this service-oriented outreach.
Right.
And I remember he joked about how, if they had gone with the term shepherding instead of ministering, people would call him a German shepherd.
It was a classic Uchtdorf moment. But it also highlights that the church is always evolving.
Right.
Always seeking ways to better reflect Christ's teachings and to create a more welcoming and inclusive environment.
And I think what's really interesting is how he connects ministering back to those core principles of believe, love, do. It's like ministering becomes a way to actually express those principles. It's a tangible way to put our beliefs and our love into action.
Right. And he emphasizes that it doesn't have to be some grand, heroic act.
Right.
Oftentimes, it's the small and simple things that have the greatest impact.
Like that saying, kindness is a language everyone understands.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, just a kind word, a listening ear, a helping hand, those things that seem little, they can really make someone's day.
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important message, especially in today's world.
Yeah.
Where we're often bombarded with so much negativity and division. It's a powerful reminder that we each have the power to make a positive difference.
Yeah.
Starting right where we are with the people around us.
And he doesn't limit that invitation to just members of the church.
Right.
He specifically talks about those who might not be members or who have maybe drifted away from the faith.
Yeah.
And it's not about trying to convert anyone. It's more about expressing a genuine desire for connection and belonging, And he emphasizes that everyone has something valuable to contribute regardless of their background or their beliefs.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our common desire for purpose and meaning. And that's a message that's especially relevant in a world that can often feel increasingly polarized and divided.
But here's the thing. Sometimes the idea of being a good person can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're constantly falling short.
Mhm.
And I think that's where Uchtdorf's acknowledgement of imperfection comes in. It's really refreshing.
It is.
He's very upfront about the fact that the church is filled with imperfect people who make mistakes,
Right.
you know? And it kind of takes the pressure off of this idea that you have to have it all figured out before you can belong.
Exactly.
You know, it's like he's giving us permission to be human,
It is. It is.
to stumble and fall and get back up again.
Yes.
And he emphasizes that the church isn't a club for the perfect,
Right.
but a place where we can come as we are and strive to become better together.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be incredibly liberating, especially for those who might feel like they don't measure up or who have been hurt or disillusioned by past experiences.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of safety and belonging, a space where we can be vulnerable and authentic without fear of judgment.
He even acknowledges that sometimes people within the church say or do things that they shouldn't,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that they're not trying to be better,
Right.
that they're not on that journey of growth and learning.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important reminder for all of us that we should be extending grace and compassion to one another.
Yeah.
It's easy to judge and criticize, but true discipleship is about seeing the best in people, even when they fall short.
And that's where the emphasis on forgiveness comes in.
Yes.
You know, he talks about creating a culture where we're quick to forgive, where we resist the temptation to gossip or tear each other down,
Yes.
you know. But instead, we focus on building each other up, on creating a more loving and supportive environment.
It's about fostering kindness and compassion, even in the face of disagreement or imperfection. It's about choosing to see the good in others and to believe in their capacity for growth and change. And that's something we can all work on, regardless of our religious affiliation.
So, you know, we've talked about a lot, unpacking a lot of wisdom from this talk.
Right.
The power of believing, loving, and doing, the importance of practicing our faith through service, and this, you know, this beauty of creating a community where everyone feels welcome and supported.
It's a truly inspiring message of hope and healing,
Yeah.
reminding us that even amidst the challenges of life, we can find purpose and meaning by focusing on becoming more like Christ.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last point that Uchtdorf makes, and it's a really powerful one. He talks about how believing, loving, and doing, it's not just about personal happiness, it's also about making a difference in the world. Yeah, it's like he's challenging us to kind of think beyond ourselves, you know, to recognize that our actions, even the small ones, can have this ripple effect on the world around us.
Right. It's about contributing to something larger than ourselves, to creating a more just and compassionate world. And it doesn't require those, grand gestures or heroic feats.
Right.
It starts with those everyday acts of kindness and service that ripple outward.
I love that idea of a ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's so easy to feel insignificant, right? In the face of all the world's problems.
Yeah.
But he's reminding us that we each have a role to play. Our actions, no matter how small they seem, can make a difference.
He ties this back to the idea of creating what he calls a gospel culture.
Oh, yeah.
A culture that's characterized by forgiveness, compassion, and a genuine desire to lift others. It's about shifting the focus from judgment to understanding, from division to unity,
Yeah.
from self-interest to the well-being of others.
And I think this vision that he's painting feels so relevant today, especially with all the division and negativity that we see in the world.
Yeah.
He's offering a powerful antidote,
He is.
a way to create a more positive and hopeful future.
Absolutely. And ultimately, I think that's the core message of Uchtdorf's talk.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a world that can sometimes feel really dark and discouraging, there is always light, always hope,
Yeah.
always a reason to believe, love, and do. And it's a choice we make each day.
Right.
To focus on the good, to extend kindness and compassion, and strive to make the world a better place.
So as we're kind of wrapping up our deep dive into believe, love, do, what's resonating with you the most? What's one key takeaway that you're walking away with?
For me, it's just this reminder that true happiness and fulfillment, it comes not from focusing on ourselves, but from orienting our lives outward toward loving and serving others. It's about embodying those principles of believe, love, do in our daily interactions, in the way that we treat others, and the choices that we make. It's about making those principles an integral part of who we are, how we move through the world.
That's a beautiful takeaway. It's so easy to get caught up in our own little worlds, our own problems, anxieties. But Uchtdorf is calling us to something bigger.
Yeah.
to a life of purpose and meaning that extends beyond ourselves. And he reminds us that it's a journey, not a destination.
Right. We're all works in progress.
Right.
And that's okay. And he emphasizes that it's not about achieving some grand, unattainable ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about taking small, consistent steps each day,
Yeah.
making those conscious choices to believe in something greater than ourselves, to cultivate love for God and our fellow human beings, to put that love into action through acts of service, kindness, and compassion.
And that we don't have to do it alone, you know?
Mm.
He invites us to find that support and encouragement
Mm.
in our communities, whether that's our family or our friends or faith community or any group that inspires us to be our best selves.
Yeah, because ultimately it's in those connections, in those acts of love and service that we truly find our purpose and make a difference in the world.
So as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with this question to ponder.
Okay.
What is one small act of believing, loving, or doing that you can put into practice this week? It doesn't have to be anything grand or heroic.
Right.
Just one small step in the direction of living a more purposeful and meaningful life.
And remember, every act of kindness, every expression of love, every effort to make the world a little brighter matters.
Yes.
You have the power to make a difference.
Absolutely.
Don't underestimate it.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been great.
Until next time, keep believing, keep loving, and keep doing.